basis of following the belief of feng shui, which is an offshoot derived from... Hey, welcome back to I-Ching from the empty chair. Today we're going to do a quick review of what we did last time. If you were here last time, you'll remember that we built the bagua. That's what this symbol is. You'll find it on a lot of Chinese talismans. One of the reasons for that is that this contains all the information of the universe, all the knowledge. All we have to do is understand that. So, the reason that this symbol ends up on talismans and protective talismans is who can stand up to all the knowledge of the universe. No force of evil can penetrate what is the known knowledge of the universe. You remember we went through, we found out how old hunters could decide directions by throwing coins and calling forth the lines. And the lines, in order to get better directions, were subdivided into trigrams, built into trigrams and subdivided into the 8 directions, and that the 8 directions also have corresponding meanings for the I-Ching. And of course you'll recall that for each trigram the meaning for the 4 directions, and then the 4 sub-directions each had their own meanings as well. So, knowing all that, can we move on? Yeah, we can. We're ready to call forth a hexagram and build the trigrams into hexagrams, but first we need to know something about what we're going to ask. And in this case, I've come up with a question, and I love the beginning part, with all that I now know. Is it in my interest to continue producing these community-based programs? Let's find out. As we concentrate on the meaning of all the things in the universe, we understand that this question is a single thread in that. Hello? No, she's not. Yeah? Oh, could you call her back? Okay, yeah, probably noon? Yeah. Okay, thanks. I apologize about the interruption. So now we can get back to concentrating on the question as we consider all the bagua, which contains all the known knowledge, and what our question has in relationship to that. We call forth the lines. We get 3 coins of equal size and simply throw them. Well, 2 tails and a head. And if you'll recall from the earlier segment, that 2 tails and a head. Oh, here we are. 2 tails and a head equals a yin line stable. So we'll just go ahead and mark that down. Below the question, at the bottom of the page. Because remember, we build these up. Our first toss is our bottom toss. Once again, we return for the throwing of the coins. And once again, we have a yin line, stable. throw again. Yang line, stable. And once again, yin line, stable. And we go again. Yang line, stable. And once again, yang line, stable. Well, we have no changing lines or anything, so let's find out what our two trigrams have as their basic meaning. We can count to this point here and say there's a separation. One trigram on top of another. Or something like that. Well, here we have the hexagram that we've drawn by throwing the coins. Now we look and we see, well, it falls into the wind controlled hexagram because the trigram that represents wind is on top. So this particular trigram is wind over mountain, which is the lower trigram. As you can see, each trigram not only has the direction, member of the family it represents, and the time of day. So from here, this point, how do we go forward and try interpreting the meaning of the trigram, the hexagram? Well, we still have some hidden trigrams within the hexagram we haven't looked into yet. And those are what we call the nuclear trigrams, which are the ones inset within the hexagram. Here we see that we have the hexagram representing fire, south, and noon. So that's the upper nuclear trigram, and then for the lower nuclear trigram, we have the trigram that represents water, middle sun, and midnight. Now, in order to make a complete divination or interpretation from the oracle, we need to consider these as well as the controlling trigrams of the hexagram. And consider the interpretations of all the meanings as related to the nuclear trigrams as well. Fortunately, we've had help in that. And that's where we look and find that there was a guy named King Wen, and he was incarcerated by his mean half-brother over control of the throne. And while he was incarcerated in the dungeon of his half-brother's castle, or palace, he came up with the interpretations of the hexagrams. He did spend quite some time there. And he came up with some short interpretations of the hexagrams. And this particular hexagram's interpretation is as follows. Developing. Choosing to marry brings good fortune. There is advantage in correct persistence. I need a little more interpretation than that. Well, fortunately, again, we have a later king or ruler, Confucius, that made his own interpretations or commentaries on the hexagrams. And here he combines the nuclear trigrams with the upper and lower trigrams. The penetrating wood is upon the immobile, the mountain, forming the condition for developing. An enlightened person therefore operates in good conduct and so elevates the social order. Well, you know, I could even use a little more interpretation than just the commentary here. Unfortunately, we have that available in the Western culture from this guy Wilhelm. He was a professor and he became interested in the I-Ching, 40s or 50s, 1940s or 50s, and he came up with a wonderful book that has even what they call the decision. And in that regard, he has quite a few extra interpretations, but they're very complicated to understand. But he interprets it very well for us. And the meaning of this hexagram would be blah blah blah. So when we consider what the interpretation for my question would be, should I keep doing this community-based television show? We can look at the mountain symbol, which is keeping still. It is a symbol for abiding by dignity and virtue. And then we can look at the wind and wood, representing penetrating, which wind and wood do. A tree on the mountain grows slowly and imperceptibly. It spreads and it gives shade, and thus through its nature influences its surroundings. It's thus an active example of the power by which individual improves the mores of his environment through cultivation of his own qualities. I don't know what this all means in relation to my question, but I do have a very good interpretation of where it is I am going to be going with this show. And that is, the short version of the interpretation is, don't quit day job. Don't quit my day job. So I think I'll follow the advice of the I-Ching in this and just do a slow, plodding, steady program with interesting qualities. Trail for the Sehome Hill Arboretum. It's going to be our little walk today. And this trail here is the one that leads directly to the university. Old Main. Let's go take a check it out. As the trail winds on through the woods, one can gain some insight into the degree of the storms that plummet the hill, pummel this hill. Going up a slight incline, there's a long level stretch here. As well, many panoramic views of the city can be seen. The sheer force of the wind, its fury snapping trees. Yet we're surrounded by a lush green vegetation. Summer is here. Stunning views of the city. Stunning views of the city. Captured through the green and mossy trees. It's almost as if a rainforest exists here among the mossy trunks of these massive trees. Society and civilization intrude, and not for the first time, with wires and structures to help us enjoy the nature better. Sending society's blood power. The trail beckons, yet the higher calling of a side route. Beckons most. A toppled tree among a gang of many toppled trees. Huge roots clasp our early attempts at bringing water from nature's spring. Ripped asunder. The trail becomes dense and difficult to follow. Old tree held by a tripod of another grows yet again. A concrete reservoir sits upon an earthly spring, gathering water naturally. Its curved walls suggest an inherent strength. This road that leads us ultimately to our destination's goal, high atop Sehome Hill. A lush rainforest, thick as bramble. A road of asphalt splits, a fork, a choice. Yet an old marker. Highlights the way. To the right. Again, a shortcut trail beckons. Yet the temptation is resisted. As the gradual sloping road winds towards the summit. A 20s barrier concrete post prevents us from losing our way. on the final bend as we reach our goal of the summit. Our reward. Our goal. The top. And what lies at the top? Man's greatest creation. The Sehome Hill Tower. A structure so awesome, so balanced in design. It's as if it were meant to occupy this very spot. But the many switchbacks, the difficult attempts at going straight for our goal. Up, up, up. The rush, it's like getting to the top of Everest itself. Oh, Kathmandu. The amazing tower, the crowning achievement of the westward expansion, the Sehome Hill Tower, overlooking the greater Bellingham area. Life is good. The Nooksack River Estuary. What else do we have down here? Be of interest. Ah, the courthouse. Redemption Church. Headquarters for Hagen's. Oh, the harbor. The Yakla Harbor. Yeah, of all the things I find the most interesting to view from here, I find the canopy of the alder and the maple. And the interrelation, summertime, in the evening. These trees will be full of birds feeding. Well, it's about all the time I've got for staying on top of the tower. Doesn't seem right that I'd be leaving the Arboretum without showing you the other sights, such as the tunnel that leads to the parking lot, that lets you walk only a couple hundred yards to the tower. The human race's greatest achievement? Or the quarry? Or the access to the college? Doesn't seem right. But then there's so much to the Arboretum. That I couldn't show it all. Tree, the cave, beside the harsh sandstone boulders. Well, you know what it's going to look like with the little cap rail on for the handrail going up the steps. putting that section in, I think I've added a bit of good feeling to the home. It seems to blend in more naturally with the way the home's supposed to feel. Thing, I started thinking about how I could redo my front deck on the basis of following the belief of feng shui, which is an offshoot derived from the interpretations of the I-Ching. So I came up with a little idea that maybe I could have a deck railing that had lines and all, and so I remember that I had made one a long time ago. So I went out and dug up the one that I had lying around so I could finish the project that had originally started some time back. Here's the template that I drew up, and I'll show you some of the finished product. Here's one that I found that, as I was weed eating, I found it against the fence here. It's meant for the front deck. Here's a couple that I already installed on the upper deck and back. Problem: I don't really like this old rail that I put up a long time ago, and I'd like to replace it with the type of rail I have in back. As well, I don't believe that this rail is conducive to having good energy enter my home. So we'll be replacing this rail. Well, as you can see, this panel is going to be a little shorter than the previous panel I made up. So what I did was I came over to the center line, and having previously measured the opening that it goes into, 64 inches, minus 2 inches on either side, I came up with that I needed the center line at 30¼ inches just to fit my specific needs. So I get that painted. Well, welcome to the show, the segment, This Old Southside Home. We're going to be replacing some deck rails. And along with the rails, we're going to be replacing the steps leading up to the front door. Why? Well, the steps are kind of rotten on top, and if you get a look below, you'll see that the stringers that are holding it all up are very rotten, making for a very unsafe situation. As well, over here, I don't really like the way they match in, but when you shake it, it is very loose and rotten. So, my consideration is that, yes, these railings must go as well. Here's the one in back, and it doesn't match the decor of the house. Paul's really done his job. I don't want to be in it, no! Now all he's got left to do is to put this wood back where that wood came from. Okay, I'll see you in about a half hour. Well, we mixed up the concrete and poured it. Put these studs in to hold the boards that we're going to lay flat. that'll hold the staircase in place down at its base. Well, I've got most of the pieces out here now. And the next part is trying to match up a new structure with an old structure. One of the bonuses about doing this is you'll find that none of the things that you're working with from the old house are plumb or level. That may not seem like a bonus, but then it means that you don't have to follow those rules exactly yourself either. Here, even though I measured the job twice in the beginning, I find I have to add a shim on the bottom. But this is working towards my advantage in the end. Even though it makes the base step a ½ inch higher, it'll be uncompensated for because the top level step, which is already existing, the deck, is a ½ inch out. In the distance of the 4 feet across, right there, it's out of plumb, out of level by a ½ inch. More like 3/4 actually. And so when we bring that down to here, the offset will seem negligible. Well, let's keep going, see if we can make this job the afternoon job that it is. Number 1 position in front of the staircase. As you can see, we got the stair jacks in, and I've laid out some of the boards. Looks like I'll be able to use 2 of the old steps, maybe 3. We'll find out. And then I also got the posts up. And the posts are going to be holding the frame. Well, after I get the steps in, looks like I'm going to have a bit of a cleanup job to go through. Well, I got one of the handrails already up in place. As you can see, I put the post in on this side over here, and then I slipped the handrail going up the stairs in between the 2 posts. All I have left to do for the handrail and the staircase is to put this post in, and I've notched out the step so it'll run along the stringer nicely. As well, I drilled a couple holes here so that I can install the lag bolts through the 4x4 and into the stringer and step itself. The final job I'll have to do will be to put a cover board here on the front. Now the front, as we recall from the top, has an angle to it as well. The sidewalk was built with a slight angle to it, and rather than repair it, since it's just 3/8 of an inch, I'll just leave it and cut the board accordingly. And as you recall, our top step had a ½ inch difference. After we get the rail up, we'll see if we can notice it or not. Now, the only final challenge we have left is to see if the pre-made part is going to fit in here. We'll just bring it on over. Be a little tight. Otherwise, I think it turned out pretty well. Yeah, there we go. There it is. Wow, not too bad. Well, I really like it. Now we get a real feel for what it's like to come up with a railing that makes sense for the house. But the problem is, we're going to be moving on to the next portion of the railing between these posts here and on the other side where the existing railing is still there. On the other side of all this stuff. Well, we'll get right to it. Well, now for the awful moment of truth. Will this fit? And so far, I'm not getting the answer that I wanted. It's supposed to be up. About 2 inches off the bottom here. Let's see if I can just use the most important tool. And knock it in. I didn't even need any nails on this. Oh, I see I'm a little low on. I have my mark over there. Well, I think it's gonna fit though. I think I'll just leave it for the time being. And just get back to it when I have a chance. Well, looks like I have to get back here and paint this before I can put it up. I prefer doing that because of all the delicate angles and detail to get done. It's so much easier when it's on a platform. So I'll just have to put everything on hold till I get that painted. Well, as you can see, I came out and primered the boards. And I've also secured the angled fields within the 2 posts. They're all screwed down and ready to go. Wonder how far along I got up here. It started raining yesterday. I had to quit immediately. Aha! I did get that one board cut. The cap rail. Well, I'd say that it was a somewhat successful day. Well, you can kind of see what it's going to look like with the little cap rail on for the handrail going up the steps. As well, I came back and I put this section in over here. By putting that section in, I think I've added a bit of good feeling to the home. It seems to blend in more naturally with the way the home's supposed to feel. So until next time, many happy sunrisings. See with how tightly the joints came out on most of the pieces. It's difficult to have these things cut around like that and have them fit so snugly. I don't know how I did it, but I'm quite happy with it. And of course, this is the crowning achievement. If we get together next time, you know I'll be walking out a staircase that we can all be proud of. Trees. this on a platform. So I'll just have to put everything on hold till I get that painted. Well, welcome to the show, the segment, This Old Southside Home. We're going to be replacing some deck ribs. There's a good feeling to the home. It used to blend in more naturally with the way the home's supposed to feel. Listen